Hi, I'm Shaun from My Mental Health, and today we have Kim Balasan from Sober is the New Cool. Now, Kim is a motivational speaker with an amazing story. So, Kim, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Sean. I'm so glad I'm here and I love everything you're doing. So, congratulations on being so young, so beautiful, and so brilliant. Let's start with that.
Thank you.
So, basically, my story starts out quite different than most because my son, at 13 years age, he was playing football and started having seizures, which they thought was trauma, like, concussions, whatever. Needless to say, one thing led to the next. We found out he would be epileptic and there would be no more sports. He would be on medication for the rest of his life. So our life just turned completely upside down. So after a few months of finally getting proper medication and diagnosis, I said, you've got to start going out. You've got to see your friends. We've got to start living again. And I drive him somewhere, and after about 30 minutes, he'd call me and say, Mom, come and get me. And finally, the third time, I said, okay, this is nuts. I went downstairs and I went to talk to him just quietly, the two of us. I said, this doesn't make sense. You don't, why aren't you having fun? What's going on? He said, Mom, I don't fit in. I said, what do you mean you don't fit in? He goes, everybody's either drinking or doing drugs. And I'm in Canada, so the drinking age is 18, not 21. So kids start even earlier, or I think it's universal anyway. So I said to him, oh, come on, Matthew, you really don't need drugs or alcohol to have fun. And as I said it, I had the biggest glass of red wine in my hand. And I have to tell you, it was like a truck hit me. And I thought, you're the biggest hypocrite. And I don't know what happened, but from one second to the next, because I used to love my wine, I said, Matthew, I'm going to stop drinking for 3 months. And 3 months came and went. And he said, see, Mom, now you could be like everybody else again. So I said, okay, I'm going to do another 3 months. And that was over 11 years ago. Sober is the New Cool was born because he didn't really want to talk about why he couldn't drink, even though it was a medical condition, which was even in my mind crazier. But for me, being his mother, the first year, everywhere I went, all I had was people saying to me, you don't have a problem. There's nothing wrong with you. Come here in the corner, have a little sip. We won't tell. And I thought, I was 52 years old at the time. And I thought, if this is what's happening to me at 52, how is he going to be able to manage this socially? This is just incredible. And we had enough problems with anxiety, depression, and everything else, from playing football 5 days a week to he wasn't even riding a bike because he had 11 seizures in the first year. I mean, so it was just crazy. And so this started on a kitchen table with my sister, and she made the logo. And we just made a Facebook page more for him, to give him some kind of, oh, my mother's doing this kind of thing. And I started getting messages from all over the world. And I realized, wow, they're really, and when I was the first year, I did find it hard not to drink. I really did. And I realized, wow, I was drinking too much. And there was nothing out there other than Hello Sunday Morning, which was from Australia. And I said, it just snowballed. And here we are 11 years later. We help people all over the world, and we connect people. We do have t-shirts and hoodies, but that's really just a way for us to give back to the community. All proceeds go back. There's nothing this is not like a t-shirt company or whatever. And it's really here for people to feel that self-accomplishment and know that they matter, and being sober is a good thing. And there's no reason why anybody has to give reasons or excuses why they choose not to drink. And here we are.
That's really incredible, like what your son went through. I actually got sober at a really young age too. When I stopped drinking and using drugs, I was 20 and then 21, and I felt kind of similar feelings of like, well, everybody drinks, everyone's doing this. I wasn't even 21 yet. So, I didn't even go to bars or anything because I'm in the United States. So, I don't know. I did feel stigmatized, like,
Yes.
oh, you're not drinking because you have a problem, which I did have a problem. But it really doesn't matter why you're stopping drinking, whether it's health, whether it's, something you do have a problem with alcohol, you're questioning your relationship. Yeah, it really shouldn't be. And I feel people like you have been destigmatizing alcohol use because I went to a party the other day and there was, I don't know, there was probably 5 adults that didn't drink there. And I don't think it was because of, they had a problem or they just questioned their relationship with alcohol or they liked, mocktails better because they could get up in the morning and do
Yeah.
stuff. And I think it's great. I love the destigmatizing around, the alcohol use. It's really incredible. Now, in the beginning, what did you find yourself what helped you the most? Besides, I know you're driven to like, help your son. What were some things that like helped you get through it? What were like most of the fun things that you did that you were like, oh, I like this. I can do this.
Well, one of the first things I did was I had been a smoker on and off most of my life, and 5 years prior to that, I had done hypnosis to quit smoking. And I thought, okay, maybe I'll just do it anyways, because you're right, I was doing it for my son, but I quickly realized that I was really doing it for myself. For I was able to meditate. I was able to jog. I love loud music and running and jogging and being out there. And I was always, I think, a bit of a perfectionist. And I was always, I would have that drink before an event or whatever that I was putting on. And quite honestly, I'm much better without it. All of a sudden I started to realize I wasn't running away from my life. I was running to a new life. And I found passion and I found people and I found like the people that I met really, even early on, they were so authentic. They were so inspiring in the way that they were really artsy or they were really passionate about something. And I found that all of a sudden I wasn't, because I had a good life. So I found I went from having a pretty good life to having a great life.
Mm.
And it just was like there was something higher than me, because every time I kind of thought, all right, I've done this now. I've kind of, done my thing and my son is getting better. And quite honestly, it was such a roller coaster ride with him. And then I realized that the drinking part also was huge for my anxiety, for not sleeping as well. All these other things started to come into play, and I was like feeling better and better and better. And I thought, wow, why would I ever want to miss another memory? And I kept saying, everybody said, oh, you're okay, you proved your point, get on with it. And I thought, if I'm so afraid to have a sip of wine or a martini or champagne, there must be something that's not quite right. And like I said, our life was so upside down, and we were going to see psychologists and psychiatrists to get through this time. And it was also my mental health that just got a surge of like positivity. And even though we were in a place where it was so hard and so many changes, and I was so afraid as a mom, and I couldn't fix him. That's the one thing I could do, right? And I could support him through that. And it was just like all of a sudden I was trying meditation, I was trying yoga, I was running. Anything anybody said to me, I was like, okay. Where before I was kind of closed-minded, I guess. And then I met a wonderful young woman called Natty. Um, this is hard for me because I just lost her a few months ago, 3 months ago. But she was from the UK. She's AKA Sober Badger. She became like a daughter to me. And she had asked me early on, when she found me on Instagram, if I would do a tattoo with her. And I thought, I'm just not a tattoo type. I'm more ribbons and bows. And then I stopped and I thought, if that was my child asking somebody else, I would want them to say yes. So we both had a tattoo done on WhatsApp. And it's the infinity sign, because I used to say to her, I love you, infinity plus one, like I used to tell my kids. And the pink heart is for her and the white heart is for me. And for 7 years, we had the most incredible relationship. I never had a daughter. I always wanted one. And now I feel like I have daughters all over the world. So, but this has become my best piece of jewelry, because even though she's gone, she lit up every room she walked into. And I really feel that at this time, it's important that people really, really help each other out, because the world needs love right now.
Yes, the world always needs love, right?
Yeah.
And so now that was like, so how now you started it 11 years ago. And so do you do like mentoring, or is it you just connect people with other people? Like,
Well, the one thing I do when I meet people, I don't pretend to be a coach.
mm,
Because I feel that that's very, very particular. And I feel you need a really great accreditation, because you're playing with people's lives and people are very fragile. So basically what I'll do with people is I do something called the I am, which is I send them a positive word every morning and every night. And they have to send me one back. And it's quite something, because as silly as it sounds to people at the beginning, they start to remember all the qualities they forget they have. And it's just like I say to them, I'm just showing you what I see. And eventually you will see yourself through my eyes. And 9 times out of 10, I've been quite lucky. I've had a school teacher that was teaching grade 5. And she said, there's nothing I could say about myself that's great. And I said, well, you could say you're funny, you're artistic. And we start with smaller words, I'd like to say, just because if you start with something that's so grand, people are like, no, this is just not.
mhm.
And now she starts her day with her grade 5 students, where everybody has to say an affirmation every morning. And to me, and then I try also to connect people in where they live, because I think community is key. And I think that when you meet the same kind of people that are trying to get better and can say me too, and they're not judgmental, there's something so freeing about that.
Yes, absolutely. There's definitely something freeing about, I mean, I personally too, like, I mean, I go to 12-step meetings, so
Mm.
I've been in 12-step meetings for over like 13 years. So, I've met so many, I'm so grateful for especially the women, I'm a woman, so that connection really means it's like really important, to build a great relationship with another woman, because I was even talking about this before, I think when I was drinking and using, I didn't really want to connect with other women because I don't even know if I want to get into this, but me and my husband were having this conversation where I wouldn't want to connect with women because for me, it was like kind of a manipulation tactic to talk to other men, and that was the only really relationships I wanted was manipulative ones so I could drink and use and continue unhealthy behaviors that I've been, learned for so many years. So it was really important for me to have a sponsor, and she's been my sponsor for over 13 years. So she was my matron of honor. She was everything. I'm so grateful for having building relationships with sober individuals and then sober people and sober women for me. So,
And
well,
I think for me, also being 63 years old now, the women that I do meet, whether they're 40 or 20 or 80, because I have a lot of recovering grandmothers, which is fantastic. They see me as a mother figure. And what's good about that is I'm not their mother. So when I say something that they're not quite loving, they take it a bit better than if their own mother said it, right? Because they don't feel so judged. But I can be honest and I can say, you know, because to me, recovery, 12 steps, yoga, running, do whatever, and as many things as you need to do self-care, as far as I'm concerned. So I think that that makes it great also that my age is played a big part of it. And for me now, seeing someone like you and all these younger women taking like over, and I know that the world is going to be in a great place. Not that I'm going anywhere right quite yet, but it's important because when other young women see, they get inspired by you, right? And that's what we want.
yeah, thank you. Yeah. I think that's great. Now, what was one of your first qualities that you really kind of went in tune with?
You know what? I think I was always, growing up, I always thought I should be a doctor or a lawyer or something other than what I was. And I was never tall enough, slim enough, you know, whatever. And I think the thing that I realized my best quality was I used to love giving. I used to love helping people. And I remember someone saying to me, if you think everyone's going to do what you do, you're going to be disappointed the rest of your life. And once I got sober and I wasn't drinking and my mind was clear, I realized that's the best part of me. And it doesn't matter if I was a doctor or a lawyer or any of the other things. That is my number one quality is I give and I give truly from my heart. And I really do help people and I'm happy to do it. Like it's just part of, and I think there's something higher than me because I open my phone and it's like, okay, somebody comes on my phone or I think about somebody and they say, how did you know? And I go, I don't know. Somebody told me, a little bird, right? So
Yeah.
it's, I think giving for me is my very best quality.
Yeah, that's really nice. I love that. And that's really hard to self-reflect. And like you said, it takes a while to kind of get that clear-headed approach because you've been doing it for so long. You've just been doing the same thing over and over with the same habits and patterns. And when you interrupt it, it's like, wait, oh my gosh, like everything kind of gets interrupted and you're able to make those big changes. And, I mean, I know being sober for me is, I say it's like my true self. Because with drugs and alcohol, I just wasn't, it was running my life so much that I wasn't even, I was like a shell of myself. So,
And to me, I always, it's funny because in the last 2 years, I've met a lot of new trauma coaches, and they look at it like I really feel that alcohol or drugs are just the band-aid of what's really sad inside. And that's, and I met these wonderful trauma coaches in New York City last summer, and they said to me, we like to work on the inside first of the problems because people can stop, but the reason why they go back is because they've never really truly healed. And that's where I think people have to be really, really gentle with one another because we really don't know what anybody's going through.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, My Mental Health, our app, so we have 28 modules in there, and they are the meat and potatoes of like what is going on inside you. And yes, recovery is great. Stop drinking, stop using, but completely, just like you said, it's really in order not to go back, you have to do some work on yourself. And, you want to create abundance in every aspect of your life so it's not lacking. And that's what our program really does, is you can work on overcoming fear and negativity. There's so many, even like meditation, there's so many where you get to know yourself, just like you're talking about. Like, it's just a symptom. It's drinking and using is just a symptom of what's really, like, I like how you said the sadness.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause I mean, I drank when I first took my first drink and used my first drug. I said, oh, this is the key. This is
Yeah.
making me feel better. So, and I really had to interrupt that change. So,
And I do, it's so much easier to believe the bad things about ourselves than the good things, and I met somebody and they said, every morning people should get up and say, I love you in the mirror. And I try and I just can't seem to do it like authentically. And then I met somebody else and they said, you know what, why don't you just high five? And I thought, okay, I could try that. And I did do it. And that was a touch easier. So that's what I'm saying. It's kind of like, we learn so much from other people, and this app that you have is like such, because it's right there at the minute that you need it. Like if it's at 12:01 and you can't get to a meeting, or you can't go to an exercise class, or before you go to bed, and you have that support, that's what's great.
yeah. Yeah. And our biggest feature right now is our search. So, which is really great. So if somebody goes in there and they're like, oh, I'm having a lot of trouble with like my relationship right now. And you just search relationship, and there'll be like 20 videos that come up that are talking about your relationships with anybody in your life. And so like that's one of our biggest used features right now, which I think is great because you're getting like direct, like a little minute to 2 minute video just about relationships in recovery. And you're able to kind of like refocus or get like a little tip, like, oh, okay, just like you're saying, like instead of, saying I love you, high five, like, yeah, like just something very simple. And I think that's super important too. I think it's a negative thought pattern is interrupted for 2 minutes. It can completely change your outlook and perspective on things. So that's all you need is a minute to 2 minutes to change those negative thought patterns. And that
Also,
could
somebody
be,
feel alone, right? When they see that video of somebody else, they go, it's not just me. I'm not the
Mhm.
only one that's sad like this, or I'm not the only one that somebody treated badly, or I'm not the only one that has this kind of frustration or anxiety. So it's just like, to me, that app is spot on. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a lot like the immediateness of it is the key, because our founder, so he created My Mental Health because his sister I think she was addicted to heroin, and she went into a hospital one time and she sat in the ER for like 8 hours and then just got up and left and overdosed and passed away. So, someone needs help or needs a little bit of support right now, like that's when we want to step in and be like, here's some support. And actually, in the next month, we're going to add meetings in there so we can connect more people, which is
That,
great.
that's wonderful. And are you all over the world? Yes, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. We have a lot of users all over the world. I mean, right now, our top downloads are in Argentina,
Wow.
because it's offered in Spanish too.
Okay.
So it's bilingual. You just hit a little tab that says English or Spanish, and you can get it in Spanish. And it's the whole app again, the same one. So it's pretty interesting. Like, I've just loved, like you said, helping people. And this is a way, I've been, you know, a recovery advocate, I guess, for years, but this is another way to really give back to
Yeah.
people who don't have, the resources at all.
And also to end the stigma, the ugliness of somebody who's been addicted or is addicted or has slipped, who cares? What's most important, and I interviewed a psychologist and a researcher, doctor the other day, and they were saying when you do a brain scan of someone that has addiction, it lights up like a Christmas tree. And I tell you, when she was talking, I wanted to cry because I thought to myself, this is what we have to keep saying to people. No, and it's not that people don't want to try. It's not, there's something bigger than us. And yes, we have to take responsibility for our actions, but we have to be able to talk about it for people not to be afraid to get the help or say, I don't drink, or go and get an app, or people to say, oh, have you tried this app at a dinner party? This is what I'm doing, because everybody's on their phone everywhere anyway. So they should be saying, hey, check this app out, right?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. That's so interesting too. And I mean, I just, yeah, addiction. And actually, when I interviewed Mike at Sober Press, we were talking about how, so his upbringing was much different than my upbringing. And he was very successful. And by the time of my drinking, I was unemployable. And he had a longer stint in recovery than or I mean, in addiction than I did. And it just doesn't, addiction and substance use disorder does not discriminate
No,
against success, race, creed, whatever. It
yeah,
doesn't matter who you are. If it gets you, it gets you. And that's very interesting, right? It doesn't discriminate anybody. So,
and when you hear a doctor say a brain scan, like if it was cancer or anything else, everybody would stop and listen. So it is the same for us. So everybody should not be ashamed or feel any sense of, having to explain this is a medical issue. And she said, I wish more people would believe it when I say it. And that I found quite sad, actually, that she would say that.
yeah, that is sad. It's very sad. Um, do you now from your upbringing, like, so you grew up in Canada, okay, and how is your relationship with alcohol until you quit drinking?
Well, we had issues of alcohol in our family. So I was not a
Okay.
stranger to the
Yes.
problem alcohol brings, number one. Number two, I went to school in the United States most of my young life. And I was like a fun girl, a party girl, stay out late, dancing, whatever and whatnot. And, quite honestly, now looking back, um, and seeing some of those pictures, I feel sorry for that girl because I always felt like that was my liquid courage to go talk to somebody, to dance, to just be, I guess, give me courage to be part of whatever. Nobody knew that about me, that I never felt like I was good enough. And I think that's really, really quite sad that was because, I mean, looking at me from the outside in, it really looked like I was just like a fun, party girl. But now I think, wow, if I could go back, I would say you don't need this and you're good enough just the way you are. And, if somebody doesn't like you, that's okay too. Not
Yeah.
everybody's gonna like you. And, I guess I wanted to people please and, I just didn't have enough self-confidence, I think. And I think that's the problem for most people. They just don't feel worthy. And everybody is worthy of a good life.
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree because I was not towards the end, I was into harder drugs, but the beginning of my drinking and everything, I was party girl, fun. And even before that, I really tended to mask. I was very social. I was very outgoing, but I was masking what was going inside of me, like, and I was kind of those things. So I didn't want you to look too hard. If I look okay, then you're not going to look inside and really get to know me. So I think that was my mask that I wore is, oh, I'm fine. Oh, I'm social, I'm outgoing. But I really didn't want you to know what was really going on with me. And it is sad. It's very sad to look back and to see times like, where you just think, isn't self-esteem. It's really self-esteem.
And the problem was it was normal. And I'm a lot older than you, right? So I
Mhm.
mean, it was even more normal for my mother, the drinking and the cigarettes and the parties and all that generation. And then my generation compared to yours, it was really normal. Everybody went in a car and drank and drove, which was really bad. I mean, I can't begin to tell you. And I remember people saying, "Oh, what did I say last night?" and laughing about it. And I was one of those people, you know. And now looking back, I think, wow, I don't know. I don't know. And there's one picture I have, which I still have not shared at my 50th birthday, which I will share at the right time. I share it with young women when they're first starting or they've had a slip or whatever, because people say, "Oh, you're 11 years sober, almost 12 years sober. Oh, you don't get it." I get it because we still have those moments where it comes back. And there's a picture at my 50th birthday where it's so hard to see, but I will share it with those people because I want them to see what I was or what I look like and the tears and the sadness and the puffiness in my face for them to realize that everybody starts somewhere. It really doesn't matter if you're on day 1 or day 4,000. It really
Mhm.
doesn't because
Yeah.
it it pulls you back in very quickly the minute you start to feel insecure or whatever, you know, all of a sudden, oops, if only I had a drink.
Oh, yes. Yeah. And I struggle when it gets to the summertime. Not even
Yes.
like I was like, oh yeah, I only drink in the summertime. No. But when it gets to the summertime, I'm like, oh, like this would be, oh, we're out by the pool,
Yes.
And I always I'm 12 years sober. Every year I have the same weird romanticizing thought
Yes.
of, oh, well, it would be nice if I could have this, at the pool or, and I think it's marketing too for
Yes.
alcohol. So I have that thought every single year about the romanticizing of summer and alcohol. And it just flies in and flies out. And I
Yeah.
usually share about it. And I think it's, as long as you're sharing about those things and not keeping, because that's what your addiction wants you to do is like keep it inside, hide these feelings for a rainy day when you're not feeling good and you're not feeling strong about your recovery. And then boom, you
Yeah.
know, it wants you to take a drink. So every summer I have that, but I do. So I never drank at bars. But I've never really had like a pina colada that had alcohol in it. So in the summertime, I drink virgin pina coladas all the time because I'm like, I've never even had like one with alcohol. So that's my summer drink is virgin pina coladas.
Now, honestly, I feel there's so many great options out there.
Yes.
And, quite honestly, I tell people all the time, you know, they're afraid to go to a wedding or they're afraid to
Mhm.
be in a social. And I said, people really don't care. After the first 2 drinks they've had, they don't care what's in your glass.
Here.
Trust, it's, so we have to take that away too. If people, worried about what other people will think because they don't. You know, because really, when you look around, I'm not really seeing who's drinking what. I'm talking and I feel that now, you know, the moments that I have and the moments that I remember the next day or going to a wedding and that feeling is completely different when you're sober than when you're drinking. It just is.
No, absolutely. Yeah, there's so many options now too. And I think It's like really catching on to not even, people who have addiction issues, people who are just like, I'd rather just not feel groggy in the morning, or this is a good option where I just don't want to, I want to be present with my kids.
Yes,
So we are definitely chipping away. I
yes,
mean, I've met so many people who don't even have addiction issues who are like, no, I really just don't drink. And I was
yes,
like,
yes.
that's awesome. I'm like, and like you said, I feel like when we got sober, it was weird. Nobody did that, you know?
And it really was. It was like, oh, well, she must be a drunk, or she must be this, or she must be that. And quite honestly, why judge anybody? Because until you walk in their shoes, you don't really know why somebody would have drank, or why they would have done drugs, or what kind of childhood they had, and
Mhm.
just be more helpful than judgmental, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I've learned too that it's people, if you're surrounding yourself with people who drink like you while you were in your addiction, then most likely those people, like, that's who you're surrounding yourself with. There's plenty of other people out there who don't focus on those things. They're like, I want to go to yoga. I want to go
Yes,
to CrossFit. I want to, those are their communities. Like drinking really isn't the main focus, which I was surprised at. It's like, oh, it's been the focus of my whole entire life. Yeah, it's really interesting. And I love what you're doing. I love how you're helping so many women globally. Like, and can you tell us a little bit about your website?
yes. So sober is the new cool is basically, we'll talk about upcoming events, not just in my where I am, but for other people wherever they live. Because I remember once in London, someone said, oh, I was going to go to an event, but I don't know anybody and I'm too embarrassed to go by myself. And within 3 minutes, there were three other women where I just went and they lived 15 minutes apart and then none of them knew. Like that's how small the world could be sometimes, right?
Mhm.
And so for that, we do that. I go to as many events as I can. We do an international recovery walk. The government of Canada did a declaration for sober is the new cool for International Recovery Day, because we didn't have that in Canada, like a real set day. So that was quite an accomplishment that, yes, has happened. I mean, the things that have happened to me in the last 11 years would never have happened had I not been um, sober. I mean, I did Fashion Week in New York City 2 years in a row. I've had some of my sober women be lucky enough to be also included in these fashion shows, which not only, I mean, we're afraid, whatever, but the bond that we made doing this together, getting over the fear of walking in front of 200 people at Fashion Week, different ages, different sizes, different qualities or not or whatever. And it's amazing the buzz of having 200 sober people, because they were all sober events, these Fashion Week
Mhm.
events, and like to have women come from different parts of the United States to New York and do it with me was incredible. So I mean, there's just so many things that I think we've just begun, and now with COVID over and people going out, and wellness is in.
Mhm. Absolutely. Wellness is in, and
Yes.
I'm so happy about it. But oh my God, you're absolutely incredible. I love your enthusiasm. Like, I don't meet a lot of people, of course, I meet a lot of people who are enthusiastic, but I just really think yours is really genuine. And every time I hear you on your videos, you have something about you that really makes people connect to you and feel, because they know it's from your heart, it's reality. And I just love that. And thank you so much for coming on today and, giving mental health tips for all of us and telling us a little bit about your story. And my mental health appreciates it a lot.
And listen, I am always here. I answer all DMs from Instagram. That's the best way to get through to us. I'm lucky enough to have ambassadors all over the world that are Sober is the New Cool ambassadors. And they do it free of charge. And, as long as they're kind, they're allowed to be an ambassador and help other women or men or children or whoever it is to finally get everybody a better life.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Kim.
Thank you for having me, and continue what you're doing. You're so young, you're so beautiful, and you're so brilliant. And bravo to you with that My Mental Health app, honestly.
Thank you.